not a new weapon, but a new animal.
A new animal?
Exactly so.
You found one?
Yes. Here on my island, I hunt the most dangerous game.
Most dangerous game?
Most dangerous game? What could it be?
The game I am hunting is all of you.
We are going to hunt you cricket.
What happens if I get caught?
Ooh, don't get caught. Don't get caught. Well, there he goes.
Hunt man?
You raving maniac.
Well, conventional wisdom says good fleeing will always be good chasing. But the stats say put your money on the guy with the gun.
And the hunt begins.
Indeed. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the Most Dangerous Podcast. I'm Travis Fishburne.
Hi, I'm Alex Brunel.
And I'm Dustin Meadows.
And this is a show that takes a look at different interpretations of the most dangerous game. And this week is a little special episode. We are going to be discussing different interpretations in homages of the most dangerous game as seen on TV.
Yeah, as seen on half-hour TV, more specifically.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So,
there's got to be some hour-longs that have done it too that we didn't look at.
Oh, I'm sure. We'll get to them.
Someday. But yeah. So we took a look at four. We took a look at an episode of The Simpsons, 2 episodes of The Clone Wars, 1 episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and 1 episode of Batman the Animated Series. All of which reference the most dangerous game to one degree or another. Some less, some more. Why don't we just start off talking about The Simpsons? The Simpsons one was season 17, episode 4, which is Treehouse of Horror 14, and it is the middle segment in Treehouse of Horror 14, Survival of the Fattest. And here we have just an overt most dangerous game spoof. There's a 1920s title card.
Yeah.
It's very much like the most dangerous game. That was Lawton in that movie, right? Charles Lawton was in it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the movie we watched. It's similar to that, but Simpsons-y and violent-y. This is funny. I mean, like, I wasn't a later era Simpsons guy. I dropped out watching them contemporarily, probably season 15. And in rewatches, it's only seasons 1 to 9. So, like most people.
Yeah. This is one episode I had seen just because, like, a few Halloweens ago, I just marathoned all of the Tree Houses of Horror.
Yeah,
and so
I've done that
was
too.
one of them.
The Treehouse of Horrors is always actually not bad. Like, even in a modern day season of The Simpsons, the Treehouse is usually worth watching. One thing that's funny in this is it keeps doing these non sequitur cutaways to the World Series of Manslaughter on primetime TV, which is broadcasting Mr. Burns' hunt of Homer and other local Springfield characters, which is exactly like The Running Man, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Terry Bradshaw from our intro comes from that. Most of the dialogue in the intro comes from these episodes that we watched. And in particular, the It's Always Sunny stuff sounds way more menacing and like it could be from a really dark drama action version of this story with that music underneath it. And then you see it in the episode and it feels like there's no threat.
You're like, oh, we're just going to teabag a guy. All right.
Yep. Just the magic of Glenn Howerton being a sociopath.
So yeah, do you guys have thoughts on the Simpsons one?
It exists. I thought as far as like I'm definitely I'd never seen this one before. I think I rewatched the last couple years of the Tree Houses of Horror and I've been pretty meh on them for the most part. That's usually is like, oh, there's a good segment in there, and then that's about it. This one, I didn't feel too strongly about it as a Treehouse of Horror, and I didn't feel super strong about it as a most dangerous game riff either. Like there were a couple of good jokes in it, I thought. But then like the pivot to the reality show thing seemed kind of like a lame cop out to me. Although fully Running Man vibes when they do switch to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just out of all of them we watched, this one was probably my least favorite of the bunch.
Yeah,
that's fair. It wasn't my favorite segment in this episode. Angela and I did watch the whole episode, and I think we liked the third one the most.
I think the costume one.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. The witchcraft, everybody getting turned into their costume. That was fun.
Yeah, I thought that was definitely the best part of it. And then they did like the weird artificial intelligence kind of riff for the opening one, which I also thought was like, there's a couple parts of this that are good, but on the whole, meh.
One thing in this that we do have is an iteration of a trap, which we haven't seen the most of recently. Is Homer dummies up Barney's corpse in his clothes to try to make Mr. Burns think that that's Homer, and like marionettes him with ropes in the trees and stuff, and it's pretty gross.
That was a really good bit.
That was a funny gag.
Yeah, that was one of the parts I thought was good.
And Homer even remarks about using the corpse of his friend.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and resorts to cannibalism.
Oh yeah, he
real
eats,
early. He eats
Frank.
Yeah.
They've been there for just a few hours.
2 episodes we covered regarding cannibalism.
That is true.
To the hunting.
And that is that's interesting also because I don't think any of the other ones we've covered have gone into cannibal territory, have they?
Yeah. No, I don't think so.
So we talk about during the course of this podcast, we've covered I think 10 features and none of them featured cannibalism. We turned to TV for 4 half hours, or I guess 5 because the Star Wars is a 2-parter, and we encounter cannibalism twice. How wild.
And it's ironic because in both of these instances of the cannibalism joke, it is not because of the game. It's not like the person hunting is going to eat. It's a joke that something that Homer has resorted to. And in the Always Sunny one, it's the B plot.
Right.
Yes.
2 other characters.
I guess just hunting people rings cannibalism adjacent.
Yeah.
To a lot of writers, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I do love that Mr. Burns uses it as part of his religion, and he has his lawyer type up the
He has his lawyer legal The hunt is Mr. Burns's religious worship, so it is therefore legal. The lawyer draws up the contract, and then Mr. Burns promptly kills the lawyer.
Yep.
That was a good bit too. Anything else on that, or shall we move on to the Clone Wars? Where's the contraction? Which episode is the contraction in, Trav?
Contraction comes with Batman.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Just spoiler alert for contractions. I researched every single episode, the whole cast, and you would really think that there would be way more people who are in Star Trek, but one. And it came from the least likely of places, which we'll.
I'm excited to get to it because I don't recognize who that is in that picture, so you'll have to explain it to me.
Nice.
Okay. Coming up next, we have Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Season 3, Episodes 21 and 22, which are a 2-part mini arc. Padawan Lost and Wookiee Hunt. Ahsoka and a group of abducted younglings find themselves trapped on a Trandoshan moon, prey in an elaborate and cruel hunt. Trandoshans, for those who don't speak Star Wars, are the lizard bounty hunter species from The Empire Strikes Back.
Boss.
Or if you want to be real racist, you can call them Bosks.
There's a little bit of racism in this episode. I feel like the one guy there's one of the Jedi younglings was like racist against Wookiees at some point.
That sounds about right.
He's like, no, I don't want to do the Wookiees plan. I want to do this other thing. And then Ahsoka's like, hey, they're going to do this thing and it's a terrible idea, but I have to go with them because they're going to die otherwise. Will you come with me?
Yeah.
So there's a few interesting things about just like the production of this episode, I think. One is, I just want to point this out. The woman that wrote these 2 episodes is a writer named Bonnie Mark. I looked up the writers of all these episodes, and for the most part, they're just writers on their respective TV shows, and they do other things of the sort. Bonnie Mark, her longest run of work was on Homicide: Life on the Street, and other credits are Feds. I don't know a lot of these titles, but you can tell what they are from the words used. Feds, C16: FBI, Third Watch, The Court, Robbery Homicide Division, NYPD Blue, and then 3 episodes of Clone Wars. The other one is season 4's Mercy Mission. So between this person, the actor that we're about to talk about that has a brief role in this episode, and Walter Murch getting to direct a couple Clone Wars, which I learned from a podcast was because he was like, he needed work. And so George was like, you want to direct a couple episodes of my cartoon? And he was like, yes, please, sure. I feel like Clone Wars had a large tendency to like hire friends of the production that were just kind of out of work and needed a gig.
Yeah.
I'm drawing that conclusion based on some circumstantial evidence. And one of these Trandoshans is named Shuck or Shek, and is named and modeled after Walter Schobach from The Big Lebowski.
Oh, watch Stub Check?
Yeah. He wears amber tinted goggles and cargo shorts. This Trandoshan.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I didn't catch that.
And then I didn't get a visual reference, but there's a voice actor in this episode that seems to actually be Jeff Anderson, who's Randall from Clerks.
Yeah, here. There's a little clip of Smug, the Trandoshan.
I'm not helping you, whelp.
Here's another one.
I need to call a speeder to pick me up.
And so that's the same guy. I don't know
absolutely why. Randall. Are those his two lines? Is it just two lines?
He's got a few more.
Okay.
But it's the same guy who's in this scene.
I don't know if you notice or not, but come leave streaks if you don't clean it right away.
I will never come to this place again. Excuse me? Using filthy language in front of the customers. You both should be fired.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we kind of got carried away.
Well, I don't know if sorry can make up for it. You've highly offended me.
Well, if you think that's offensive, check this out. I think you can see her kidneys.
Why do you do things like that? You know he's only going to come back and tell the boss.
Who cares? That guy's an asshole. Everybody that comes in here is way too uptight. His job would be great if it wasn't for the fucking customers.
One of the greatest scenes of the 90s, bar none.
Oh, and I love that because the offended customer is Walt Flanagan.
Yeah, it is.
He's so funny in that scene. You've highly offended me. He's like almost crying. It's so good.
Walt plays like 5 characters in that movie because of the need to have extra people.
I have like the burning desire to revisit Clerks like every 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming up on that time. So all of those things that we just said about these 2 episodes of the Clone Wars are the most interesting things about these 2 episodes of the Clone Wars. They're not bad.
Yeah. It's
just 2 episodes dedicated to showing that Ahsoka can take care of herself. Great. If we're gonna like go to specifics, these 2 episodes are basically Predators.
Yes.
We have
I fully had that thought.
The people are abducted and dropped on a hunting moon of this species, where they just keep doing this as hunting grounds for whatever reason. And then we follow the main characters until they work their way out of that situation somehow and take over the ship. They both take over the ship. So like Predators has shades of Most Dangerous Game, but this just is Predators.
Yeah. Down to finding pre-existing survivors in the game reserve.
Right. Others of your ilk. Couple things.
Which that's crazy that there were like all these Jedi younglings that they'd taken.
Right, and like I guess the Jedi Order just like actually gave up on them. Like
it's just okay with it.
They're gone.
Like Anakin like hadn't given up on Ahsoka. Like if she hadn't come back, he would have like just wandered the galaxy and figured that shit out. But these other 3 I mean, Plo Koon must have been their guy. Like, if they'll come back if they're meant to.
Plo Koon just out here losing Padawans left and right. Going through Padawans like Batman goes through Robins.
Oh, no.
Tim Drake was on that moon also, I think.
He's one of the trophies in the trophy room as his Robin costume. One of these kids, the main girl, is where Wiz Khalifa got his name, and there's a little clip of it in the show.
Where's Khalifa?
So if you say it really quick,
Where's Khalifa?
it's Wiz Khalifa. Fun fact.
That was all I could think about. The two names sprung to mind. Obviously, rapper Wiz Khalifa, and then star of adult film Mia Khalifa.
Yep, the two Khalifas.
Yep, both alike in dignity.
Wiz is a good
Where's
dude.
Khalifa?
By all accounts of people that I know who have interacted with him locally in Pittsburgh.
Cool.
Sorry. Go Trev.
While this does not have a proper contraction, there is actually a line reading in here that really is, I feel like, a callback to Star Trek, the Search for Spock. And that is when this character says,
"Those Jedi whelps killed my son."
which sounds an awful lot like,
Klingon bastard, you killed my son.
Oh, nice.
For sure. That's great. The first episode, Padawan Lost, opens up with the quote, "Without humility, courage is a dangerous game."
mm-hmm.
So we have a direct reference in
Little
that.
wink.
I don't think they ever set traps. Do they ever set traps? I don't think
so. Not like the closest
Other
they come
than-
is that net that they used to catch her at the beginning, but that's not a trap. That's just them launching a net.
Yeah. Or when they, Jedi mind trick Jeff Anderson.
Oh,
Sure, right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good bit. That's trappy. Other thoughts I had watching the episode, the leader of the Trandoshan clan has a super sick wampa pelt covering his throne. Like that'd be a cool chair. And his personal like speeder that he has kind of looks like MODOK. I just like that pulled up and I had just seen Quantumania. I'm like, oh look, it's MODOK in Star Wars. And Chewbacca basically does an ET in this. He like just pulls apart random electronics and builds a transmitter to call his people.
To call his home planet, yeah.
So that's fun too.
It is. No, I had the same thought. I'm like, oh, CET. Because these episodes were actually a big deal when they were airing because they were bringing Chewbacca in.
Right.
It's like, oh, they're bringing Chewie in, they're bringing Wookiees in. Peter Mayhew was brought on as a consultant, and they like watched the way that he would walk so that they could get the animation like in there correctly.
I did not realize that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's commitment to the craft.
I mean, they involved Mayhew at a lot of times that they did not really have to.
Yes.
And I always thought that was very good. Similar with Anthony Daniels.
Mm-hmm. And Kenny Baker. Wow. They kept Kenny Baker employed doing that robot thing for like, was that abuse in the later years, man? Like, yeah, I think he died in the R2 can.
I just think of that episode of that one Simpsons where they go to the Baimon Sci-Fi Con and they pass Robbie the robot and kick him open and there's just a skeleton of a little person in there. That was an episode I had on tape because I remember that being hyped up as the Mark Hamill guest appearance on The Simpsons. Luke Skywalker on The Simpsons. I was very excited. All right. Any further thoughts on these two episodes of the Clone Wars?
Well, I do think it's very interesting. In this episode, we've got Smug the Trandoshan, like meeting up with Ahsoka. And I actually have an exclusive clip from the upcoming Ahsoka show, because
Great.
Smug comes back.
Great.
And he interacts with Ahsoka. Here it is.
Bex, do you ever go ass to mouth?
You never go ass to mouth.
You've never gone ass to mouth.
You never go ass to mouth.
I've never gone ass to mouth.
I could probably sue this whole corporation right now for sexual harassment. You're just making me restock the napkin holders because of my firmly held beliefs on the subject of ass to mouth.
You never go ass to mouth.
Would you grow up?
So Ahsoka coming later on Disney Plus, everybody.
You thought Andor was sexy.
Hell yeah.
It's just so crazy that he like, because when I looked at this cast too, I'm like, what? Because so much attention was like on the Chewbacca aspect at the time that like it just completely overshadowed this. It's really weird because Jeff Anderson, like Alex, you know, he doesn't act a whole lot.
He has 19 acting credits since 1994. 19.
And like more than half of those are playing Randall.
Yeah. He does very little, and I've seen almost all of it because I just like Jeff Anderson a lot. I've seen the movie. I own the movie he made. It is not good. But
it's just like,
it's wild.
I'm like so curious how this came about. Like, who reached out to him? Was he there one day and they're like, you want to like jump into the studio? And
yeah, man,
because
and
it's so weird.
I Googled, like I searched Jeff Anderson Clone Wars and I went a few Google pages deep, like hoping he had appeared on some podcast or given some weird, like very specific interview to some weird blog about why this happened, but I could find no information. I'm not on Twitter anymore because it doesn't support third-party apps anymore. Does he on Twitter? Does anybody want to tweet him?
Ooh, I don't know.
We'll follow up on this. Should we move on to It's Always Sunny?
Yeah. It's just so it's crazy because had I known that he was at what was it? The
Sci-Fi
Galaxy Con. Yeah, he was at the Galaxy Con Columbus like a few months ago, and I was there and I saw him. And had I known, I would have absolutely like gotten some kind of a photo of this character and had him sign that as opposed to a random. Because I like to give people the opportunity to sign stuff that they're like, oh, you want that? Okay.
Oh man, one of the weirdest things I have, I think I still have this back at home. There was a year I went to the Pittsburgh Comic-Con, I think it was probably like 2002 or 3, where I brought my friend Adam Bola's VHS copy of Harry and the Hendersons and had everybody that I thought was even a little bit interesting at the con sign it. Most people were interested. Some were off-put. Many shared stories about their whatever connection they had to Harry and the Hendersons or memory they had of it. And the one person who like signed it begrudgingly was Dennis Kitchen, founder of Kitchen Sink Press, which publishes really great books, or at least did. And he just didn't understand why some snot-nosed teenage kid was asking him to sign some doofy movie. Here he is trying to put out art books. But I love doing stuff like that. Or I did when I was a teenager anyway.
Yeah, I cannot. Oh, there's so many people. I'm trying to find who it was while I was doing a deep dive on every cast member of these 4 shows. One of them, and I will never find that out in the time that it would be correct to bring it up, but was in an episode of the Harry and the Hendersons TV show.
Great. So. The one who had an actual story was Tom Sullivan, who was one of the effects guys on the Evil Dead movies. And he made the Necronomicon, and he just lives at conventions now and has for years. But he told me a story about how he wandered into Stan Winston's shop while he was crafting Harry and got to see the process.
Nice.
Fun.
It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Season 4, episode 1, Mac and Dennis, Manhunters. Mac and Dennis pursue the ultimate high of hunting another man by stalking Rickety Cricket, while Dee and Charlie become obsessed with eating human flesh after they come to believe Frank has fed them some. Yeah.
Can we circle back because I figured out who it was?
Yeah, we'll circle back.
And it was not this. It was not for the TV. It was in the previous episode for the hunt. Hilary Swank was in the Harry and the Hendersons TV show.
Oh, the next Karate Kid's Hilary Swank, eh?
Amazing.
Pat Morita was also in it. So there's
wait, in the next Karate Kid or in Harry and the Hendersons?
Harry and the Hendersons.
Oh, weird.
Yeah. All right. So
cool. Casting agents. Hollywood. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. There we go.
The opening scene here is pretty funny. Like, I don't watch this show, and that's not like a point of pride. Like, I just never got into it. Now there's 16 years worth of it, and it's just a lot. But I loved the efficiency of the opening scene, where you just have Dee and Charlie are enjoying some meats that are very delicious, and Frank is mad because they're eating the deer that he hunted. Meanwhile, Mac and Dennis say that hunting man is the only true test of a hunter, and then Frank claims that he was hunted once, and just describes the movie Rambo.
Yep.
And those are kind of the three things that just happen in this episode. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Always Sunny is really good with using their opening scene to pretty much set up the entire episode. Because like it almost always follows this format where it's like it's usually the gang in the bar talking about whatever ridiculous dumb plot point is going to drive the entire episode, and then it's like, oh well, we're not going to, you know, I don't know, cause the end of the world, and then it's like titled "The Gang Causes the End of the World."
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, great bit. And this is definitely one of my favorite, like, of the cold opening scenes. Because I had also forgot, like, I've watched this series probably at least 3 times through. I love Always Sunny. And I had forgotten that this is the episode with the cannibalism B story.
Yeah.
So as soon as they were, it was like, oh, that's this episode as well. Perfect.
There's some great lines in this, too. When Frank comes in the apartment, the next scene, they call him a fascist meat hog.
Yes.
And the episode.
I also want to say,
go.
What you were saying about the efficiency of laying out what the episode is about.
Yeah.
I always think of The Simpsons as completely not that.
Correct.
The Simpsons is always
the first 4 minutes of an episode of The Simpsons is always a different episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a complete
and it always goes in
curveball.
a different correction. Yeah.
Yeah. I was noticing that, like, I never really noticed that growing up watching The Simpsons, but as an adult rewatching The Simpsons, it's like you watch the first 5 minutes and you're like, oh, what happens in this one? And then you're like, oh, right.
Yeah.
I've definitely had that where like I've looked up what the episode is that I'm watching. I start it, and I'll get a few minutes, and I was like, wait, how is this the episode where they go to Knoxville?
Right.
Like,
right. How do they get to there from here?
Yeah.
Totally insane left turn every single episode. What else here? So this episode is extremely loose in the Most Dangerous Game thing.
Yes.
They are hunting a man. The stakes are not life. They're pretty much just playing to teabag him if they catch him.
Yeah.
Also, Alex, do you know who Cricket is?
No.
Do you know, like, his story? Dustin, since you've watched the series more, can you give him like a little rundown on the story of Cricket?
The character.
Yes.
So Cricket started out as a friend of theirs from high school, who was called Rickety Cricket because I think he had like shin splints or something, and had to wear leg braces. He ends up growing up, becomes a priest, and then is totally fine, like well-to-do, as successful as a priest would be. And then Dee plays on that he has a crush for her, and he basically leaves the church for her. She reneges on it, and then like he ends up homeless, and just over the course of the series, like becomes more depraved, starts like trying to offer the gang sex acts for drugs and
Oh my
food.
God.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
this is a God, I think probably the 5th or 6th time Cricket's shown up by this point in the series. Yeah, just gradually more broken. There is an episode in one of the later seasons from the last couple of years. I can't remember what season exactly, but it's an entirely Cricket episode, which is pretty great.
Sounds fun.
But yeah, that's Rickety Cricket, who's played by David Hornsby, who
I recognize the actor.
Yeah, well, he's also, I think he's involved creatively with the show too.
Okay.
Kind of in the way like Kyle Newacek was with Workaholics, where he was like occasionally on screen.
Right. And there's one hunting scene, quote unquote, and Mac and Dennis build like a blind box out of a cardboard box.
Yes.
In the middle of a sidewalk, and discuss what they're gonna do to Cricket when they catch him. It's all very funny. But this is a great line. Monkeys are like nature's humans. It's a great line.
Yep. Okay. There's also the great bit where Mac and Dennis are chasing him, and then like very clearly there's a switch made and the stunt double starts doing parkour
like all the way up a building
to get away from him. That's one of my favorite.
That's a great bit.
Episode.
It's a really funny episode. It winds up Frank fed them raccoon, which probably had tapeworms, which is why Charlie and Dee are so deranged and starving and cannot be satisfied by any meat they try. They try every meat during the course of the episode. They try to fatten up and season a guy to eat him.
They try to go to a morgue and eat a corpse.
Right. They're worried about if they're racist about which corpse they're gonna eat. Eventually Frank chases them off with a knife, and Mac and Dennis are left alone with Cricket, and they're probably just gonna teabag him.
Yep. There's also one of my favorite sight gags in this entire series is Frank rising up out of the trash like Rambo.
That is a great moment.
I love because especially with Frank, they really lean into like when they're doing like the obvious like riff on stuff. Like another episode that I think of is when they get taken hostage. It's basically Frank is playing a John McClane in a Die Hard situation in the bar. That's really great. And then this like him just fully leaning into being disgusting Rambo.
I do love disgusting Rambo.
Blood. Yeah, oh my god. On they drew first the second time the first blood. And, like he just makes those disgusting like penguin sounds.
Yeah.
That's my favorite version of Frank in this show is when he's just doing stuff that didn't make Batman Returns.
Is this so? Again, as a person who doesn't watch the show, help me out. Is this just mainly what Danny DeVito has been doing acting wise for the last 15 years?
It's definitely been the most high profile thing, I think.
Okay, that's wild.
Oh yeah, well, because the first season or two were made pretty cheaply with just like the main core group.
Right,
of, like,
and he was
Rob
like a recurring occasionally, right?
Well, I think the network essentially told them like you need to get a star attached to this, or we're not going to keep making the show.
Got it.
So they went to
Danny
DeVito with it. Yeah, and he's so good in this.
Yeah, I mean I don't know when Danny DeVito's ever been like bad.
Other things, notable things Danny DeVito's been in recently. He was in Jumanji: The Next Level.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
He was also in Tim Burton's Dumbo.
I was gonna say the Dumbo remake's one of the only other recent things I can remember.
And of course, he's the voice of the Lorax. So.
Oh yeah, I had like a really magical experience with the Lorax because I had a really potent edible before I watched that movie, and I think I saw it either in 3D or just like in a large format kind of thing, and it kicked out about it kicked in about like 20 minutes into the movie, and then it was a really connected experience with the Lorax.
The once one got to you.
The tree spoke for you.
Yeah, it was like it was great because of all movies that it could have been that day for that experience, of all movies that I think are like beautiful and like uplifting or something like really compelling for my brain, it happened with the Lorax, and that's great too. It was still a great experience. On that note, I need to pause. I really gotta pee. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna let you guys riff for a couple minutes, and I'll be back. Right? Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
let's do that. All right. So, Dustin, what's your favorite episode of It's Always Sunny?
Favorite episode of It's Always Sunny. This is on the short list.
Mhm.
Probably the gang wrestles for the troops is up there. Because that's the first one where we get Roddy Piper as the maniac, which is honestly one of the best recurring characters I've ever had on the show.
Yeah.
How about you?
What? Oh man, I've seen like up through season 10 before I like fell off, and I'm trying to think. I really do like the finale of I can't see what season it was, but there was the finale where they go to the high school reunion and wanting to do the dance, and you see the George Michael dance that they're all doing, and it's so fucking awesome. And then it's revealed what reality really looks like.
That finale is so good. And I mean, they're just so great about committing to the bit, like that dance sequence, and then there's a finale. God, I think it was 4 or 5 seasons ago now, where Mac comes out to his dad, and it's like this elaborate, like, interpretive dance routine that he does with another female dancer, and it's like, and there's like a wet stage, and there's splash and everything, and it's like really well done. Like, that's actually Rob McElhenney up there doing the dance, and just the level of commitment these guys have. Pretty great. Also, that's why Rob McElhenney got fat too.
Yeah, he like gained a bunch of weight for one season and then lost it. And
yeah, well, because I think he was trying to convince everyone to do it, that it'd be a really funny thing to do for a season.
Mm-hmm.
And then nobody else went along with it.
I remember seeing pictures of that. I still haven't seen any of the show. I probably will watch the show at some point. Angela likes the show, and we're gonna run out of TV shows anyway. Some point, we'll watch everything. All right, so we're on to the last episode of stuff that we watched.
Yes.
Batman the Animated Series, season 1, episode 30. Tiger, spelled Tyger, referring to William Blake's poem *The Tiger*.
Billy Blake.
Selena Kyle is captured by a mad scientist and transformed into a humanoid cat creature. So what we really have here is more of a riff on the island of Dr. Moreau with like a dash of The Most Dangerous Game thrown in there.
Yeah, it's Island of Dr. Moreau, obviously. It's the Most Dangerous Game. And there's also a lot of Bride of Frankenstein in there too.
Oh,
yes. That's a very good point.
Right down to the mad scientist himself, feeling very much like cartoon Dr. Pretorius.
You do. You were really enthusiastic about us doing this one, right? Right, Dustin? This one?
Yeah, this has been one of my top 5 episodes of Batman the Animated Series for forever. The best episode, of course, being Perchance to Dream, but that's a whole other story. But yeah, I love this episode. It usually gets a lot of hate. I like that it's all these kind of disparate stories coming together to make what still feels like a fun story within the Batman universe. And again, too, like just all those touches, 'cause like this series especially, there's a lot of throwback to like kind of classic Hollywood, like the imagery, the style, like the look of the show, the technology, the locations, all of that. And obviously they pull from older elements like with films and stuff. So we get all of those here, and it's like, hey, this is a Batman episode where all of these stories are just part of it now. And I really like this episode is solid. Like I forgot how hard the end hit me too. because there's a fairly emotional ending for the story beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love this episode. It's one of my favorite episodes of Batman of all time.
I hadn't seen it. I mean, I'm assuming I saw it when I was a child because I watched the show constantly, but I have not watched the show as an adult. So I hadn't seen this, in years. I didn't remember this. I liked this a lot. It made me realize that I feel like I desperately need some kind of a feature-length Island of Dr. Moreau Most Dangerous Game mashup.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful concept that I am shocked I've only seen explored in an episode of Batman the Animated Series now that I've seen it. There was more standing around and talking than I kind of thought there was going to be, and there was every time there was I was a little every time Batman had a head start, Tigress would just be there, and then every time you thought Tigress was dead, Batman would run 15 feet, and then Tigress was just there again.
Yeah.
And then Batman would either beat him up and leave him behind, or they'd have a discussion and go off together. That was just happened 4 times. I don't know. But I like all the things you're enthusiastic about this episode, Dustin. I totally agree with. It just, I don't know. It didn't zip along to me like I kind of hoped it would. But I did like the weird creatures that were all over the island too. Like the weird cat that had the bird wings, and
yeah,
there was a bunch of other weird little mutant stuff. I did think it was funny that the other big humanoid feline creature is this 7-foot tall dark male character named Tigress, Tygrus, which sounded to me like Tigress, Tigress.
Yep.
And I was deeply confused about what they were going for until I looked up how they were spelling this.
You know what? I did not know that was a spelling until now. And so I was like, why did they do that?
Because gender is a construct, dude.
I mean, yes, true, but but in the cartoon from 1992, gender roles are clearly defined.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I also too, it's weird, because he looks almost he still looks kind of cat-like, but he looks like a cartoon version of the werewolves from The Howling to me.
Yeah.
Kind of the way he's built.
I see that for sure. You want to talk about the ending of the episode? Because it kind of does go from people talking in a room to the world, a world has ended pretty fast.
Oh yeah. So we get this very directly from Bride of Frankenstein ending, where Tigress is telling Selina and Batman to get out of there, and is rebelling against his father. God, I'm blanking on the doctor's name in the episode because all I can think of is Praetorius.
Dorian.
Dorian, that's what it was. Yeah. So is rebelling against his father, Dorian, the scientist who created him, and essentially gets that we belong dead moment where the building comes down around him. But then instead of going the easy tragic route that they set up, Batman sees Tigress carrying Dorian out of the thing. He turns him over to Batman, presumably be turned over to the authorities. And he asks Selina, if it would be so bad for her to stay with him. She says, she can't. She has to be human again. So he gives her the antidote. He starts walking away. She goes after him. She's like, hey, there's nothing for you here. And he just, without even turning, there's nothing for me anywhere. And then just continues walking off alone into the darkness. Is like, oh, God damn. Big Catman's so sad.
Yeah, that is some pretty heavy psychological nonsense for the young people watching the show, I feel like.
Oh, yeah.
And then Batman narrates Tiger a little bit to close.
Yeah, he does the first stanza of it. Yeah.
I
mean that's part of why this episode has always stuck with me, is because I remember it's hey, remember those moments in Beauty and the Beast where you were sad for the Beast? That's just the ending of this episode.
Yeah,
that's just the entire vibe. So yeah, that always stuck with me because of that, and it's just fun. I get why a lot of people don't like this episode, because it feels a little more fantastic than even some of the other episodes of Batman the Animated Series, which I don't know why people are like, oh, we're looking for reason in this thing based on a comic book, but whatever.
Give us more Man-Bat.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Who is even in this episode? Because that's how Batman gets the lead on Dorian's Island. But yeah, so whatever. I get that, but like a lot of this stuff works. I think they do a lot of fun, cool, bold things, mashing up all the stories and all that. And yeah, it's a great episode, and everybody that thinks it's a bad one is wrong.
Yeah, really the only shades of Most Dangerous Game in here is the brief part of the episode where Dorian decides that Batman can compete against Tigress in a hunting game for the antigen to turn Selina back into a human.
Yeah.
Which he never intended to do. You know, he's not really trying to kill Batman. He's just kind of hoping Batman stops, I feel like.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But yeah, that's the Most Dangerous Game aspect of this. It's light, but I do, and I'm like, I really want I would like more adaptations of Island of Dr. Moreau. There have been plenty, but I want more.
Well, once I realized like that's what this episode was aiming for, I'm like, oh, this is way more Island of Dr. Moreau than like, you know, the
100%.
And I've not seen that movie, so I went back and I watched, you know, the Don Taylor 77 version of that.
Oh, the one with Michael York.
I've never seen that one. I have. Island of Lost Souls is great. 1932, also Charles Laughton. That movie is creepy as all get out. It's in Criterion now, I think.
Oh,
yes, yes, it is.
Also, inspired a Devo chant. The "Are We Not Men" chant came from Island of Lost Souls.
Wow, nice.
Because that's in the 77 Island of Dr. Moreau, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's where this came from.
Yeah, that came from Island of Lost Souls, which is where Devo nabbed it from. Island of Lost Souls played on what was the? I can't remember what the name of the local character was, but it was maybe Ghoulardi. Maybe
Sven Ghoulardi.
Might have been Svengoolie, but I think it was a local Cleveland guy though.
Oh, that was Ghoulardi, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was Ghoulardi.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
They caught it. They caught Island of Lost Souls like on a Ghoulardi thing in the mid '70s or something, and that's where they heard the chant for the first time, and then worked its way into that song.
Nice.
And then, of course, Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau with Val Kilmer is just unbelievable to watch. And then to watch the behind the scenes of, I always liked that movie. It has a really weird vibe that is totally inescapable. Like, you know, like it's kind of a mangled cut and you can tell, but like just looking at it is awesome. And strongly recommended. Marlon Brando is so deeply weird in that movie. By just existing. He's not really acting. He's just saying words in chairs. It's great. It's insane. Strong recommend. Anyway,
but this episode is the one with our contraction in it. So,
we get to our contraction.
And you people, you're all astronauts on some kind of Star Trek.
Who is this lady we're looking at?
The lady we're looking at right now is the voice of Catwoman in this episode, who is Adrienne Barbeau, also known as former Mrs. John Carpenter.
Yep.
So Adrienne Barbeau was in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the episode Inter Arma Enim Silent Legis, and she took over the role of Senator Kritak from Megan Cole.
I did not even recognize Adrienne Barbeau under this makeup when I looked at this picture. What was I going to say about Adrienne Barbeau? I saw her outside a pet store once in Burbank.
Oh,
nice.
That was cool.
I love Escape from New York.
I was on Shrinking. We worked with this set of lenses from Panavision called the name of the lens series is the P Vintage series, and they are rehoused lenses from the 1970s in the Super and Ultra Speed series, which is what they shot Escape from New York on. In particular, the scene in the sewer that is Snake leading Adrienne Barbeau through the sewer lit by a torch is shot on the 50 mil, which is like a T1.0, I think. and I'm pretty sure that was shot wide open. And it is sharp as hell. I know that first AC's name because I wanted his career so bad. He did all of John Carpenter's movies, and then he retired after doing Stranger Things season 1.
Oh, damn.
He had like an awesome career. But yeah, those lenses are super cool. And I had a lot of fun like telling people all year. It's like, yeah, you remember that shot from Escape from New York? I know what that lens is like. It's a pain in the butt. But yeah. That's what I got. Shrinking's on Apple Plus now.
Yeah. Everyone keep watching it.
Yeah.
So is that all we got for TV?
I believe so.
I think so. I didn't watch anything else.
Me either. I think that's all we got for Most Dangerous Podcast for a little while, yeah?
Yeah. Unless Mandalorian does their Most Dangerous Game episode,
Oh
which
my
could very
God.
well happen.
Oh my God.
Somebody hunt Cobb Vanth for sport.
Which
Oh
they've
man.
done that because Clone Wars did a 7 Samurai episode, and then Mando did a 7 Samurai.
Yeah.
So they
It's
like to homage old movies more than once with these Star Wars.
Oh yeah. Well,
Different
I mean,
audiences.
the whole overarching thing is just Lone Wolf and Cub.
Mm-hmm.
True fact. There's 2 Lone Wolf and Cub shows on right now. There's 2 Lone Wolf and Cub Star Wars shows on right now.
Both starring the same person.
Yeah. So, yeah. So yeah, next week this show turns into Mandalorian Minute. I think I can do next week, but then after that I'll have to drop out for a few.
Okay. So sad.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be watching the show, but I will not have time to do a podcast. I will have one day off a week for like 3 weeks.
Understandable.
Yeah.
All right.
Making movies.
So yeah. Everyone's gonna be busy making movies, watching Mando.
Yeah, you guys will talk about Mando though. Yeah.
And so
What I needed
until the premiere of Mandalorian season 3, Dustin, where can people find more of you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dustin Meadows. My YouTube channel, Dustin Meadows Comedy. It's where all my short films, a bunch of other stuff lives. Also, if you need music, I'm a composer, so get at me, because money, please.
And Alex, how about you?
I'm on Instagram at Alex Brunel, or go to my website, abrunel.com, and see what stuff I've kept in focus, and hire me to do the same.
You can find me at Travis Fishburne. Find the show at Who Watches Pod on Twitter. You can reach out to the show at whowatchespodcast@gmail.com. Like whatever video you're watching, podcast you're listening to, any of that, it's appreciated. And so for the last time, this time, stay alive and survive.
Mando!